Hello, everyone. Welcome to Imagine, a framework for restoring Native Girl societies. We are excited to have you all join us for this session today during the ACF Indigenous Programs Conference. Before we can begin, we will be sharing some instructions on how you can interact during this session.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Sonia Begay, and I will be your ACF room monitor. And for this workshop, I'm here to share some quick housekeeping items before I turn it over to the presenters today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them in the chat box. I will monitor and record these for the Q&A session. If you have any questions during the Q&A session, please raise your Zoom hand, which is located at the bottom of your screen, or submit your questions in the chat box. We will try to get to as many questions as possible. Please note that I have provided a survey link for this workshop session in the chat box. We would appreciate capturing your feedback and thoughts on this session, which you can do by taking the survey after the workshop. I will provide that link again at the end of the session. The survey link can also be found on the live agenda on the ACF IPC website, along with the session's presentation handouts for download. Finally, as a quick reminder, all workshop sessions are being recorded for an on-demand viewing via the 2022 ACF IPC website until April 25th, 2022. Please visit the live agenda page if you would like to view these recordings after the conference. Now I'll turn it over to our ACF workshop facilitator and presenters. Why don't you guys go ahead?
Thank you, Sonia. It is my pleasure to introduce Kelly Hallman. Kelly Hallman is originally from Oklahoma and is an enrolled tribal member of the Cherokee Nation. She is the founding director of Imagine, the Indigenous Adolescent Girls Empowerment Network. Kelly received her PhD and MA in Health Economics from Michigan State University and her BA in Economics and Political Science from Northern Arizona University. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa and Sonia. I wanted to begin by thanking ANA, ACF, IPC for the opportunity to present today. Like many of you, as a girl, I experienced multiple ACEs. One of the really unusual things about my upbringing was extreme residential mobility, moving every 3 or 4 months due to my father's work, and not having extended family to draw on daily. My journey to find home has greatly influenced my work with women and girls, including the program that you'll hear about today. Next slide, please. So we'll hear from a number of incredible women during this session. Each group will present for 8 minutes and will all be available during the Q&A period, which we expect to be 15 or 20 minutes long. Next slide, please. With the vast social and structural changes forced upon our communities over the centuries, not all girls today have access to the intergenerational cultural supports they once did. Our mission at Imagine is to assist communities to renew the matrilineal supportive platforms that have always sustained our culture. Our goal is to help make these platforms more systematic and reliable, especially for girls who may be living without one or both parents, without even a grandparent, or who otherwise are isolated or at risk. Locally, we wish to meet girls where they are. Our vision is a girls' society in every small tribal community and urban Indian neighborhood, not just in the tribal capital town. Across Indian country, we also stay connected as people doing this work. Women and girls doing the work are invited to a monthly virtual co-learning gathering called the Imagine Circle. No one engaged in this project works in isolation. We're all here to co-support one another, and since COVID especially, we've been doing that very actively. Next slide, please. So many American Indian and Alaska Native girls will eventually become the primary caretaker of a household or family. This is something that, you know, they see every day in their own lives, and it will become a reality for some of them. And we believe that girls should be invested in before they're burdened with these responsibilities. Women and girls often have a lot on their plates. And we believe, although boys have their own issues, you know, risks and challenges to deal with, that women and girls really do deserve special attention in Native communities. Next slide, please. So this is just one example of some data that shows that even within Native communities and families, it really is the women and girls who are the ones who lack resources. And the financial and economic assets are what are presented here in this slide. And you can see that Native women shown in the red bars versus Native men in the blue bars are much more financially at risk. They have fewer savings, they're less likely to be financially literate, yet at the same time, they're the ones who are taking care of, you know, lots of children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, sometimes their own siblings. And so it really seems to be the fact that even when things exist in Native communities, it's often men who are more able to access them than the women. So we really would like to try and rectify some of these inequalities. Next slide, please. So we believe that support offered earlier could better serve girls. So we want to be able to anticipate some of the bad outcomes that girls may be at risk for. And certainly some of this starts very early on, but particularly as teenagers, there are a lot of things that happen to girls. And what we hope to do is build something of a bridge over a difficult time between the ages of 10 and 18, when they start to experience puberty, start to be viewed by the world as sexual beings, when they start to maybe go to other places to look for work or pursue other educational opportunities. We really believe that culture, supportive connections, economic and financial knowledge, other sort of things that you can do in talking circles with girls in an intergenerational fashion could really help them weather some of these potential risks that many of them will face. Next slide, please. So one of the things we do at Imagine when we begin to work with a community or an organization is we have an exercise called Once Upon a Time. And what this does is it really helps people reflect upon what they remember having in their communities before colonization took a lot of it away. And so we know that women had key roles, responsibilities, and the titles, they were recognized as being the official people in so many realms of life, including spiritual, social, economic, and political. And this is just one example here of a tribe where we know, you know, from the historical record, what women did in that community. And even though today they may still be doing some of those things, they're often not recognized for it. They're not lifted up and supported as Native women and girls from the beginning. And that's really what we want to try to do. We have been touched in every single way by you know, European colonial values, and we'd really like to try and infuse our lives and our work, and especially our programs and policies, with the knowledge of the power that we have, and to bring that back to the extent we can. Next slide, please. So the sort of key tool that we use in working with communities is what we call a girl society. And essentially, these are just talking circles for girls But the unique thing about them is that they're offered at the same time, the same place, the same location for the same group of girls on an ongoing basis. This can be during a 6-week cycle. It can be a 9-month cycle that's tagged to your school year. It can be during the summer. But the key is that it's ongoing, it's reliable, it's systematic. Girls have a place to go. They have trusted peers that they can talk to. They have women who they know will show up for them. Often mentors work in pairs. A young adult woman often works with an elder woman. Sometimes it's more than 2. Sometimes it's 3 or 4 women who provide different things that girls need. Cultural knowledge, knowledge about the modern world, you know, staying safe on social media, accessing things technologically. So it really does take a mix of women to really give girls what they need. And that's what we hope these girl societies are able to do. And you'll hear more about that from the other women who are going to talk today. Next slide, please. So Imagine is different from some of the other programs you might be aware of. We're not just a curriculum that, you know, we're going to throw a document at you and say, okay, you know, go do this, see you later. It's very much a suite of planning, implementation, assessment tools, in addition to content materials. But we really see this as a process and skills for working within your community, not just the content pieces. And we have each group that we work with decide what's best for their community. We're not going to tell them what to talk about every week. You know, we can supply resources for that, but we're not going to decide. They need to decide because they know what's going on with their girls. Another thing that we, as I mentioned, we want to make this systematic, reliable for girls, especially who are isolated, at risk, you know, don't have those supports that they once had in tighter knit times that we used to experience. We also support each other throughout Indian country, as I said previously, and also the approach is very much gender and life stage specific. Although most of our work to date has been with girls, we really believe that this approach can also serve Native boys. You know, men can certainly be there and reliably available to groups of boys as well. So we'd really love to work with anyone who wants to do that piece as well. Next slide, please. Throughout COVID, we have been having to shift our work like everyone else. We started with having some larger grants to 5 Native groups, some of which you'll hear from today. We also did micro grants to a number of communities, not just the core 5 organizations that we work with, but all across the Indian country. We started doing these virtual gatherings. We did them every 2 weeks during the first year of COVID. We do them every month now. So we've been having a lot of time together, even though it's virtual, since the pandemic began, and that's been a real source of strength for all of us. To date, 200 Native women have been trained in the Girl Society approach, and we hope to keep expanding that and strengthening each other. We also have an advisory council of Native women who we check in with periodically and who give us awesome advice. Next slide, please. So I did want to also mention that this girl group mentoring approach, you know, with Native communities, we call these girl societies because that's really what we had, and that's what we want to bring back. But this approach has also been used in other settings around the world, and it's actually been evaluated by myself, by Lisa, and many other people that we currently work with. We have rigorous peer-reviewed studies that have been published. And we have found that the girl group mentoring approach, community-based girl groups, like girl societies that we're going to talk about today, actually have a lot of beneficial effects for girls. This is not just a single sector program. It's not just a pregnancy prevention program. It's not just educational support program. It's multi-sectoral, it's intersectional. We want to support the whole girl and provide her what she needs with where she is, not assume she, is in this place or that place or at this stage in her life. We really want to meet girls where they are. You can see some of the outcomes that we have found beneficial and statistically significant impacts on. The one thing I did want to mention at the bottom there is trafficking prevention. This approach is just starting to be looked at as a potential trafficking intervention. And so we don't have evidence on that as yet, but we do see it as holding a lot of promise and acting, in fact, as an early warning system, because with these community-based girls' society groups, girls come to their societies repeatedly. The mentors know who they are. Girls are supposed to show up every week at a particular time. So if they don't do that, the mentors know that there's something going on with the girl, and they know who to check with about her, and they can also be trained to respond if a girl isn't showing up. What's going on with this girl? And hopefully really be able to nip in the bud some of the bad things that happen to girls, including trafficking. We can't say this is an effective trafficking prevention approach because we don't know yet, but we really think it holds some potential. Next slide, please. So besides what you'll hear today, if you want to learn a little bit more about our work, we were lucky enough to have the Voice of America do a documentary about our work. And Amy, who you'll hear from shortly, is in the documentary too. It's called The Lakota Daughters. It's won multiple awards. It's 33 minutes long. We also have a 90-second clip that we've pulled out that specifically highlights our program. So if you get a chance, please do watch it. And with that, the next slide, please. I'm happy to turn the floor over to my wonderful colleagues who are working with the Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation. You'll hear from 3 women today. First, Amy Pond, and then Kelly Brewer, and then Jay Phelps. Amy Pond is an Ogallala Sioux enrolled member. She was born and raised in Pine Ridge. She works as the Youth Leadership Initiative Director, where she manages youth programs and initiatives to improve the mental health and well-being of Ogallala youth and families. Kelly is an enrolled member of the Ogallala Sioux Tribe as well. She's the co-director of the Youth Development Initiative at Thunder Valley CDC. She was born and raised in Pine Ridge. She has a bachelor's degree from Black Hills State University, and she's worked as a Lakota language and cultural instructor, among several other important jobs in the community. And Jay is also Ogallala, and she is the Youth and Family Program Specialist at Thunder Valley. She also serves as the SAMHSA Native Connections Program Specialist. Counseling is her passion, and she has extensive youth program and community engagement experience. Welcome, Amy, Kelly, and Jay.
Hi, everyone. I am very thankful and grateful to be invited to be here with you all. Thanks for listening to us. So we are going to share a little bit about our program. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we tried our best to individualize our Girls Society and pick a name that really fit with the values that we wanted to use to guide our work and to instill in the girls we're working with. Some of those values, and you can see on the slide here, this is a design that was designed by our very own Mary Jo LeBeau, who's not on the meeting today. She's helping out today with our hand game tournament. So that's where she is, but she designed this and really with our local group in mind. And it represents our values, and the values that we've kind of chosen to guide us are, they're Lakota words on the design here, but they mean bravery. We want our girls to be strong, assertive, energetic, outspoken, And then the last one is awaken. And that to us kind of means, it kind of goes along the lines of the empowerment piece. We hope to provide girls with a safe place to have them feel empowered, safe, energized, and hopefully kind of awaken themselves to the opportunities that they have and the things that they can look forward to. Some of the goals of our society are to provide the young girls with a safe place to gather and feel heard, to increase social connectedness and belonging to each other, to our smaller districts and communities, to their families, and to their tribe, to our tribe. To increase life skills, including financial, physical health knowledge, social emotional awareness, and to better prepare girls for Lakota womanhood ceremonies and enhance their own sense of cultural identity for themselves. Our mission statement of our Y Girl Society is to empower and support girls through mentoring in order for them to be strong, brave, and assertive Lakota through through cultural awakening and education. Next slide. I think we might have skipped a slide, or they're out of order. Oh, there should be one with a map. There it is. Thank you. So our target areas, our whole Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, the whole reservation, boundaries, borders. We also work with girls that move in and out of the reservation from the border towns, Rapid City, Rushville, Gordon, Nebraska, and places like that. So we have the 9 districts. You can see on the map, they're all separated out. You can see the boundary lines of the districts. And our reservation is relatively large. It's about the size of Rhode Island, kind of have a lot of similar issues as other reservations or rural areas with high poverty, unemployment rates, high suicide rates, high ACE scores in our communities, and all of that. So our vision with this Y Girl Society is to create these consistent girl societies in all of the districts in order to allow, you can see the districts are where, the majority of the population is in those district centers. And that would be the goal, is to have a girl society, a safe place in every district where girls can get to safely and don't have to travel a long ways to get to the girl society. Ideally, our vision would be for each of these district-based, neighborhood-based, community-based girl societies would be to led by local mentors in that district, and they'd be from that district. And then also to create a system of self-sustainability. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a different slide. You can go to the next slide. Jay will talk about this slide. Oops, sorry, can you go back to the intergenerational? Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. I am really excited to share my experience so far with the Y Girl Youth Society. So I'll just get right into it. I'm in week 6 of helping to facilitate these Girl Society meetings. And my favorite part has to be the talking circles. I love talking circles. I'm loving seeing the girls open up. I'm seeing trust being built between all of them and myself, trust being built amongst the girls. I'm seeing them become comfortable enough to share their experiences, their struggles, their victories in a talking circle setting or in a one-on-one setting with me. We're getting more girls every week, and everyone is doing a great job at making them feel welcome. Thunder Valley, it's definitely a safe place for them, and you can see the difference in their body language when they come in for the first time compared to when they're leaving that same evening. And you're still going to have girls that are very quiet and shy and maybe not comfortable just yet, but the laughter's there. There's endless laughter in our meetings. Let me see. Sorry, I'm working from home. I got a little one running around. Hold on, babe. Let me see, where was I? Oh, so there's friendships being built already. And that's one of my favorite parts. It's great to see and to be a part of. They're all learning from each other's experiences as we go. So we've done something different every week. Yesterday evening, we meet on Wednesdays. So yesterday evening, we did a discussion on decision making, and there was a little game that came with it. And that covered a range of topics. There was decision making when it comes to bullying, internet safety, sexual abuse, physical abuse, home safety, financial decisions. And you know, these meetings that we have, they get silly. They have fun with it, but we always talk about being mindful and respecting everyone in the circle and situations that someone might be dealing with. We've had a self-defense class where we partnered with a program and had an instructor come in. We are planning a trip to Black Elk Peak so the girls can hike up there and welcome back the Thunder Beings. Next week, Amy, she mentioned Mary LeBeau. Let me see. Mary, she is our, she's the Wion Wichoha coordinator for Lifeways Wellness and Equity here at Thunder Valley CDC. And she does an amazing job promoting Lakota healing and wellness through history, art, and spirituality. And we have a lot of knowledgeable leaders like that here in Pine Ridge, and we definitely utilize them for the Girls Society. I'd say especially the elders, because to me, mentorship is, I believe, transferring knowledge through shared experiences. And elders, of course, have, they hold the most knowledge and experience. And I think historically, even though the term mentorship wasn't really used, we've always done it. And we've always raised our children together as a community through our teachings. And so I think here at Thunder Valley CDC, we're definitely honoring those ways by providing this safe place and this type of youth mentorship. So I guess I'll end with just saying, I know that there's some girls in our Girls Society here at Thunder Valley that really need it. They need these talking circles and everything that we're providing. It's definitely something that I needed growing up. And we're just now starting back up after COVID. So I'm excited to reach girls in other districts. I know there's other girls that need this in their lives. And I'm excited to get other mentors involved and reach as many youth as we can on our very large reservation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay. That was really good. Well put. Your experience and your work with the girls so far has been phenomenal. Jay has really talented community engagement skills. She's been able to really do well with recruiting. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And it really shows. She talked about the trust building and the relationships, and that's a huge part of it. And we focus on the intergenerational aspect of it using, so we invite junior mentors. So those would be high school age kids to kind of come play an older sister role almost with the younger girls. And the younger girls, they're usually around ages 8 to 11, 12, and they really look up to and look forward to that time with those older junior mentors. And also when we, take those junior mentors aside, and some of them are struggling you know, on their own, with their own struggles in their lives, and, you know, telling them that they're mentors for these girls and letting them know that they serve a role and they have a purpose in our community. And I think that's really empowering and helpful to a lot of the girls that we're working with right now. Next slide, please. So a lot of our goals has to do with sustainability. We really rely on partnerships. Partnerships are huge, especially when with our big goal, our main goal of wanting a Girl Society in every district. One of the ideas and things that we're working on is working with already existing structures where girls are already at. So working with schools, working with systems such as the Juvenile Detention Center, and such as that. We have a lot of partnerships and relationships built with just key community like presenters or knowledge holders of different subjects. We've had IHS presenters come in, nurses that are from here come in and talk about puberty and safe sex and things like that. Also sexual assault and how our hospital responds to that and the things that they do if someone is a victim of sexual assault. And other topics like beading, different arts and crafts, self-defense. And I think that's all I'll say on that. I think we're at about time. We got one more slide, so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I think Callie will come on and wrap us up.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Kayla Brewer, and I'm a co-director for the Youth Leadership Initiative here. And you know, I just want to thank Imagine for producing this model, because it's one that is really essential and needed in our communities. And we're, like Amy and both Jay said, we're such a large reservation. We're the second largest reservation in the United States. And with so many different disparities, with our land base so spread out, it is important that we find a way to connect our young ladies and to get through many of the difficulties that they're facing. And the Girl Society has been one of those ways we've been able to do that. The work is not over. We have a lot more to do. We have yet to establish a Girl Society outside of Thunder Valley this year with COVID and everything else. But in going forward, I think, you know, the goal is to make sure that there's not only one, but several of these Girl Societies across our reservation, because it is needed. And so Amy, Jay, and I have a tremendous job to do in making sure that happens, and we will. And I think together with our partnerships and with our dedication and for the need that's there, there's a lot of people that are interested in getting us there. And so we're really working towards those goals together. But I thank you for listening to us here at Thunder Valley, and appreciate it, Imagine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy, Kelly, and Jay. I'd like to turn it over now to Kayla Roberts. Kayla works in the domestic violence and sexual assault fields. She's done so for 15 years. She has experience working with Native, homeless, and other at-risk populations. She is the direct services coordinator for the Family Violence Prevention Program for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Kayla holds a BA in political science from Winona State University. Welcome, Kayla.
Hello, I'm glad to be with you today. We can go to the next slide. The Girl Society in Mille Lacs has named themselves Zungizi, which is She is Strong. And our groups are led by elder and youth mentors in each community of the reservation. We allow the youth to select the topics around culture, life skills, and then topics and skills that they're interested in learning more about themselves. A big goal of our program is to get our youth mentors to receive project-based learning credits from the schools in our communities. Next slide, please. Our youth mentors currently receive a small weekly stipend, and we've also worked with the public schools in our communities to get project-based learning with the alternative learning programs that many of our Native youth attend. All of our local schools have been on board with us. We do have youth that have been interested. We have not had any youth that have stepped forward to take on this project at this time. One, because of COVID, and they weren't sure how they were handling their own education, let alone trying to figure out how to work with other groups of students online when they couldn't leave their homes. The upside of our dedication to this is Minnesota is adding more project-based learning allowances into mainstream education. So we've reached out to our Native American student associations and our school social workers and curriculum directors to work on that project-based learning piece. And schools continue to work with us to expand the programming that we have been doing since pre-COVID. Next slide. The Mille Lacs Reservation is located in East Central Minnesota. And you can see on the map that we are not, our land masses are separated by up to 76 miles between our different reservation communities. So since we have started the programming, we have worked in different communities. In our Onamia community, which is D1, our largest community, the public schools have granted us community education space, and the school actually worked with us to provide transportation to the home for the students after our groups met in the school facility. During COVID, we went to Zoom online meetings. We met weekly, and we've also met with youth that weren't comfortable meeting online with a group of people. We met weekly with them on a one-on-one basis. In October, we returned to limited access programming in person, and we haven't been able to get back into the schools as they are trying to protect their populations inside the building. But we are working with one of our local schools, and we pick up the students after school and bring them to a corporate building of the Mille Lacs Band, have our programming for about 2.5 hours, and transport the students home at the end of the day. Next slide, please. During COVID, our online program, we did weekly meetings, cooking, crafts, games, cultural teachings. We did contract with a mental health therapist who met with our girls once a month to talk about issues that they were kind of going through and facing as they were, you know, at home without any places to go or people to see. We bought our families state park passes so that they would have a chance to get out in nature in our local communities as a family. And also we contracted with a female Native American graphic designer who is also a college professor to create the Imagine Mille Lacs logo. She worked with the girls for a month on all of the elements of design, coloring, letters, graphics that they were interested in. And that is where Zungizi came to be. Next slide, please. As we've returned to in-person groups, we have been meeting since October and have only had one class canceled for COVID required distance learning. We meet on Wednesdays where our school has early outs for staff education. So the girls come to us at 2 in the afternoon, and then we spend our time on our topics, have a snack, do a little bit of a meditation, spend our time on our topics, have supper, and then get transported home. We do have COVID protocols that we have to comply with in our buildings, masks, temps, and all of the sanitation procedures. And we also have community programming that has reached out to us to partner. You can see in the one photo here, our young women were invited into a shop class with and it was a presentation on non-traditional female careers. And they got to meet with a shop teacher who teaches welding, carpentry, and a couple of other different classes, who happens to be one of the only female teachers in this area. And by the end of the day, they had built birdhouses. The other picture here is they worked at one of our local community centers and were taught self-defense. Next slide, please. So what our group is currently doing is, this is earlier in the month of March. This was the first Minnesota day above 30 degrees since November, and we spent some time outside. We have weekly meetings. We have participants ranging in age from 8 to 15 in the same group. So sometimes that's a little bit tricky as to how we deal with different topics. We also provide after-school snacks. We found that a grounding activity to get us started helps everyone kind of switch over from the school day to what we're going to talk about during our time together. And then we do a project and a topic of the day. Our young ladies have requested that we sometimes break it up. So we do short spans of different topics each day so that we're not doing the same thing for the whole time that we're there. And then we have a meal together that is prepared by our elder mentor, and we provide transportation home. And some of our best conversations are in the vehicle on the way home. Next slide, please. And what are we learning? At the beginning of our time together, we sat down as a group and went through the activity that we're actually going to hear about a little bit later. And our youth chose the topics that they were interested in doing within their group. So Ojibwe language is a big part of what we're working on. We are very lucky that the Mille Lacs Band has done a language preservation project with Rosetta Stone, and our girls are going to be getting access to that. They have requested financial planning, preparing for job, both with documents needed, skills, that sort of thing. They are interested in clothing and media design. They have requested homework help. So we connect with the school beforehand, have a day once a month where we work on homework, and we connect with the school, find out what everyone needs to work on, and then we spend our time together getting those things done. We are making ribbon skirts, we're doing some beading, and they did request the self-defense class. And that is all I have for you today. So I'd like to say thank you and miigwech.
Thank you so much, Kayla. That was great. Next, we turn to Kelsey Tangney. She's the pediatric dietitian for the Oklahoma City Indian Clinic. Kelsey has a bachelor's and master of science in nutrition, dietetics, and food management from the University of Central Oklahoma. Kelsey, has experience as a behavioral health mentor with the Oklahoma City Indian Clinic, and she has been a director of the Life Enrichment and Wellness program at the Touchmark Retirement Center. So she appreciates the role of nutrition across the lifespan. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you, guys. I'm excited to share a little bit about our Junior Mrs. Miss program at the Oklahoma City Indian Clinic. Next slide, please. Just a brief little introduction of the Oklahoma City Indian Clinic. So we are located in the metro area. And so we are urban, and we are unlike Kayla and Amy and our friends. So we are urban and very much city people. It is a private nonprofit organization. We serve over 22,000 patients and have over 200 federally recognized tribes that are patients at our clinic. And we are ever growing. We have over 330 professionals, and we are even expanding to a hospital in the near future. Next slide. A little bit about the creation story of our Junior Miss and Miss program. It all began due to the epidemic of the missing and murdering Indigenous women and girls. And so as a homage, we created Miss. The motivation of this program was to take action by protecting, empowering, and giving knowledge to our girls in order for them to not only be able to live in the city environment, but also to thrive in it. Being an urban area, our girls have a higher threat of violence while also not being represented correctly in the data. The target age group that we strive for is 9 to 17, which has changed from when we first started from 11 to 17. So we've incorporated the younger girls to hit that eight-year mark that Kelly was talking about earlier on in the presentation. Next slide, please. What are our intentions for the Miss and Junior Miss program? What we want to do is to promote a safe and healthy lifestyle choices. So this program is 100% intentional and girl-centered. This program will not only give the girls the ability to have higher self-esteem, lower chances of experiencing sexual assault, better school performance, health knowledge, and then also enhance life skills. We recognize these issues, challenges, and realities for our girls, and we hope to provide the tools to be able to help them throughout not only their adolescence, but also into womanhood. We see this as one step of setting the foundation of the healthy Native women and communities. Next slide. So for the next couple of slides, what it is, it's going to be outlining what our programs have done. Through spring 2021 till now, we have been virtual due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are starting our program today. Actually, our girls are out doing a community garden, and it's our first in-person class since March of 2020. So we are very excited about that. But with that being said, we hosted a 6-week virtual class from January to February of 2021. And then we did 3 monthly virtual meetings. For total, we had over 90 encounters from our girls. So that was ages 9 to 17. And these were what we discussed. We had 2 18-year-old mentors for the spring program, and they were told to lead a discussion on cultural connectedness as the urban setting, as well as the stress that our girls experience. And then we were able to do demonstrations over beading, cooking. We did some cultural cardio, kind of like a Zumba, but we did it to traditional music and drum circles. And then we also made corn husk dolls. Our monthly lessons, we had our mother-daughter basket weaving class that was hosted by one of our instructors' moms. And then we did a face mask applique, so our girls can have a personalized mask to wear at school to honor and represent our Miss program. And then the last one we did was pottery, and they each got to create their own pinch pot or just kind of explore the different clays that we were able to give them through the Imagine Network. Next slide. And then in the summer of 2021, so the way that our programs work is we do it in a season session. So spring, summer, and fall. So you'll notice the next session will be fall. But summer, we only were able to do 2 cooking classes due to staff. I was actually on maternity leave, so I was not able to help out. But before I left, we were able to do 2 cooking classes. But we offered them virtually, again, at 10 o'clock and 2 p.m. And we offered one where it was oatmeal applesauce muffins, as well as breakfast burritos, to show the girls that they can have quick and easy breakfast, even in the summertime. And during that process, we had 14 encounters, and we're able to give them all of the ingredients and supplies that's needed to do those things. So the muffin tins, the cookie sheets, the skillets, things of that nature, to make sure that they were able to not only make it for the class, but also in the future for their families and friends. Next slide. Fall of 2021. So once again, we are virtual, but we are going in person. We only were able to do a 5-week class. So we did it from October to November, but we were able to do a little bit of a variety of classes. So we incorporated the cooking classes. We made the younger girls make bagels and the older girls made cake pops. And then we did beadwork as well as a regalia lesson. Another cultural cardio class because they really enjoyed it and it was easy. It was nice to be able to let them use the scarves that they made the week before. And then the last class we did was painting and planning. So for our older girls, which is the MISS, that's from the ages 12 and up, we worked on time management and what that meant to them and how important it is to be able to manage your time as you get older, whether it be for jobs, school, family, friends, and etc. Next slide, please. And now we are to spring 2022. And so we are having our junior MISS and MISS. It is a 6-week in-person class. Like I said, this afternoon, they are at a community garden and learning how to grow traditional foods. We plan to let them teach them how to do ribbon skirts, vision boards, go over proper hygiene, as well as have a mental health and social media activity. But hopefully what we always plan to do is do a lesson with an activity so the way the girls are able to feel comfortable and be able to be in a safe space throughout the entire time. Next slide. Planning for the future, we are always wanting to make sure that our program is sustainable and able to stay up to date with what our girls are needing. So we hope to continue to offer MISS and junior MISS for as long as we possibly can because we know it's making an impact on our urban girls. Some of the areas that we're going to practice are going to be continuing to do cultural revitalization through Indigenous fashion and design, cultural and traditional practices, which will show our girls how to do the regalia, how to make it, how to make simple shawls or even beadwork or medallions. And then lastly, due to my passion of nutrition, we're going to make sure that the girls know the history of what the ancestors did and how the traditional foods and how to incorporate that in their daily activities. Next slide. And this is just a thank you for our girls and showing kind of the different things that we're able to do throughout the time period.
Thank you, Kelsey, so much. I'd like to turn it over now to Lisa Poland. Lisa is the project manager for Imagine. She provides technical assistance to on-the-ground partners. She administers grants and facilitates workshops. Lisa's interested in how historical, intergenerational trauma and structural violence affect mental and physical health outcomes. Lisa received her master's in public health from Columbia University and her bachelor's from Oberlin College. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me here today. We don't have a lot of time left, and I want to be able to have questions, so I'm not going to do the whole resiliency card exercise that we had planned. I'm just going to describe one of the tools, which is this Imagine the Resiliency Card Toolkit, and how we use it when we're doing workshops, and as Kayla mentioned, how it is also something that can be done with girls. So you can find this tool on our website. It's free and easy to download. And it was designed to sort of the original intention was to give program managers and other people who are working with girls sort of a toolkit to help decide the ages of the girls that they would like to work with and the content that they would like to deliver. And as I said, while they were originally designed for program leaders, they're also really an effective tool to start conversations with the girls when you're working with them. Next slide, please. So what is the Resilience Challenge game? Effectively, it is a deck of 150 cards with skills, knowledge, beliefs, what we consider assets listed on each card, and they're broken down into 12 different categories. You can see an example of 4 of them on this slide. We have one asset would be my traditions. I know what tribe I belong to, and I can say it our traditional name. That's a skill or an asset that every girl in the community should know. And what we will do is we'll divide the larger workshop or the group that we're working with into small 4 or 5 people groups and hand them a subset of these cards. And the subset will reflect all 12 categories, which I'm not going to list out for you, but include beliefs, learning, financial literacy, social media, safety, community, and traditions. Anyway, each group will have the set of these cards, and the group will discuss the appropriate age range for the girls in their community to have the knowledge that's listed on the card. And some of it is pretty straightforward, and people might agree right away. And sometimes there's a lot of discussion around the appropriate age for that asset. And it's really important to keep track of that conversation, because at the end of going through all of the cards, we come back together as a group. And next slide, please. We put all the slides, all the assets, under all the cards underneath age ranges, which, and if we were in person, would be listed around the room. And just this visual representation really helps programs or people, groups, people who are working with girls to focus on what age the girls should have the skills that are listed on the cards. And therefore, maybe you want to start your program a little bit younger. And it also helps you sort of think about what you really want to focus your program on or your Girl Society on. What are the topics that are important in your community for this age of girls? And normally I would go into a little exercise now and sort of show you how it's done, but unfortunately we are low on time and we would like to entertain questions. So thank you very much. Next slide, please. I think we're done with the presentation, Kelly. Are we ready to open it up for questions?
Yes, this is Sonia. We're now opening up for questions. So if you have a question, please raise your Zoom hand or share your questions in the chat box at this time. If there's one question here, how can we adopt Imagine in our tribal communities? What steps do we take to incorporate on our reservation? This is from Francis Coley, and I can't see the rest of it, but that's who the question is from.
Francis, thank you for the question. We would love to work with you. You might want to check out our website, which I've put a link to in the chat, and you can also email us. I will provide the email shortly after I finish answering your question, but we have a number of resources on our website. We also have a toolkit that we will have available in the next couple months that is a step-by-step guide on how to start, how to enter your community in terms of introducing the Girl Society work. But we would be thrilled for you to join our monthly meetings as well. That way you can start to learn from the women who are doing this work. So please be in touch with us.
Great, thank you. You have another couple of questions here. In terms of sustainability, do any of the Girl Societies partner with the local ACF programs? That's the first one. And then Kelsey mentioned a mother-daughter opportunity, and Kayla mentioned parents. Are the Girl Societies connected to the programs for the parent family member? Well, there's a third one too. And then what happens to the girls at 18? Thank you. And this is from Mirtha Beal.
Kayla and Kelsey, why don't you go ahead?
So with the mother-daughter opportunity, we try and incorporate our parents and siblings as much as we can, but our main intentions go back to creating that space for our individual girls. But if there's ever any conversations that we believe need to have approval or maybe need to get permission for, we incorporate the families and create a safe space for that conversation to be had. And then as far as it goes with 18, we encourage them to become mentors for our girls.
So Kelsey, this is Martha. I know that there's not a lot of time, but just to clarify, in some cases, parents need support as well for the issues that they have. And sometimes there are programs that are specifically for the parent, but will allow an interaction with the child. And so are there any connections so that the parents are healthy, or the parent or the guardian or the family member is healthy, so the girls are not returning to a home situation that are not positive or stable for themselves, right? So you're giving them really positive things in the program, but then they go home. And I have a whole story about that. But I was talking about the parent that really needs some support, and how does the Girl Society connect with the programs to help the parents be more stable and more self-sufficient and more sustaining?
Yes, ma'am. At the clinic, we have multi-purpose. So we have a behavioral health team that we work closely with for different programs and support. So if we feel like there's a family that needs that extra support, or that parent or young mother, whatever that situation may be, we hopefully have that creates that safe space for them to be able to reach out to us, and we ensure that they have that support, whether it be individual or group or a family session.
And in our situation, a lot of the youth that have been recommended to our program are in a situation similar to that. And so the family is receiving different supports, but we also reach out to the families with in regards to anything that's happening that we have questions about or whatever, and offer services to the families as a whole where we can. And also, when we're talking 16, 17, 18, we're hoping at that point that we'll have those girls as our mentors to our younger girls as well.
Thank you. And at this time, I don't see any further questions. No, I don't. Is there anyone else have some last moment questions? You can raise your hand if you want.
So I think some of us were just trying to be efficient. We probably will try to send questions along because a lot of great information, great programs. And so we didn't want to overload, but really appreciated all of the 7 speakers in a very short period of time.
Amazing. This is from my standpoint, you're an amazing group of women. I love it. So thank you so much. We'll just have to close the session now. I don't know unless someone else has anything to for some closing remarks. And but thank you very much for your information. It was great listening to something that's very positive for our households and for our families and our women.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Often when we see data and studies, it's about the deficits of Native communities, families, and girls. And we really, while acknowledging those, we want to build on their strengths and resiliencies. And so we hope that you do come away with that positive message. And we hope that some of you will email us, check out our website, and definitely be in touch because we'd love to work with you. Thank you again.